My name is Rebecca. I'm 34 years old, and 2 days ago, I found out my boyfriend never meant to break up with me. At least not for real. What he meant to do was watch how I would fall apart. At the time, I didn't know that. I just knew that when he said, "We need to talk," something in my chest went quiet in that way it only does when bad news is already decided. I'd been dating Ryan Caldwell for about a year and a half. We met the boring, safe way, through mutual friends at a dinner party. No sparks flying across the room. No dramatic first kiss, just conversation that felt easy, comfortable, like slipping into a warm jacket you didn't realize you'd been missing. Ryan was steady, thoughtful, the kind of man who remembered how I took my coffee and checked in when my job got overwhelming. He talked about the future in plural sentences. We could move. We'd figure it out. I trusted him, and that's the part that still stings the most. His friends, though, they were different. Not all of them, just his core group. 3 women he'd known since college. They were loud, confident, sharp-tongued. The kind of people who treated relationships like social experiments instead of emotional commitments. They loved tests. One of them once made her boyfriend think she was pregnant just to see if he'd panic or propose. Another staged a screaming match in public to see if he'd defend her properly. They laughed about it afterward, like it was harmless. Ryan always insisted he wasn't like that. He'd roll his eyes when they told those stories. "That's immature," he'd say. "I'd never do something like that." I believed him. About 3 months ago, one of those women reached out to me directly. Her name was Claire, the quiet one, the one who usually sat back while the others dominated the conversation. She asked if we could meet for coffee. Said she needed to talk to me about something important. I almost said no, but something in her message felt heavy. We met at a cafe near my office. She kept stirring her drink without taking a sip. Her hands were shaking. "I don't know how to say this," she said finally, "but you need to know." My stomach tightened. "Ryan's friends are planning something," she continued. "They want to test you." I blinked. "Test me how?" "They're convincing Ryan to fake a breakup, just to see how you react." For a moment, I honestly thought she was joking. "You're serious," I said. She nodded. "They think it's fun. They want to see if you'll beg, cry, chase him, prove you're emotionally invested." "And Ryan knows this?" "They're working on him. He's resistant, but—" She hesitated. "He usually caves." That sentence landed harder than anything else she said. "Why are you telling me?" I asked. Claire looked down at her coffee. "Because it's wrong, and because I'm tired of watching them ruin people." I asked when it would happen. "Soon," she said. "Maybe a week or 2. I thanked her. Promised I wouldn't tell anyone where the information came from. And for the next 2 weeks, I said nothing. I watched. Ryan acted mostly normal. Maybe a little distant, a little distracted, but nothing that screamed breakup. Then, 3 days ago, he texted, "Can you come over tonight? We need to talk." I stared at my phone for a long time before replying. Okay. And that was when I knew. Because I had already decided something Claire never warned him about. If he chose their game over honesty, I wouldn't beg. I wouldn't cry. And I definitely wouldn't perform for an audience. I arrived at Ryan's apartment at exactly 7 p.m. I remember noticing small, stupid details. The hallway light flickering. The sound of someone laughing inside before the door opened. Things your brain clings to when it already knows what's coming and is trying to delay the impact. Ryan opened the door. He didn't smile, didn't lean in to kiss me, didn't even step aside right away. That was the first confirmation. The second came when I saw them. All 3 of his friends were there, sitting on the couch, legs crossed, phones within reach, pretending not to look at me while absolutely watching everything. My chest tightened, but my face stayed calm. "Hey," I said. "Hey," Ryan replied. No hug, no touch. I walked in and closed the door behind me. The room felt staged, too quiet, too expectant, like a set waiting for actors to hit their marks. I sat across from him. "So," I said evenly, "what's going on?" Ryan took a breath. I could see him rehearsing. He glanced at the women on the couch, then back at me. "I've been thinking a lot about us," he said. Of course he had. "Okay. And I don't think this is working anymore." There it was. I nodded slowly. "What isn't working?" He swallowed. "This relationship, I don't feel the same way I used to." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw one of the women lift her phone slightly. Not subtle, not even trying to be. I felt something strange then. Not panic, not sadness. Clarity. "When did that change?" I asked. "I don't know," Ryan said, voice tight. "It just did." Another pause, a longer one. Then he said the line they'd practiced. "It's over. I can't do this anymore." The silence that followed was heavy. Performative. I let it stretch. Then I leaned back in my chair and said calmly, "Perfect timing." Everyone froze. Now I don't have to hide what one of your friends told me. The air snapped. All three women turned at once, first toward Ryan, then toward each other. Ryan frowned. What are you talking about? One of them, I said, meeting his eyes, then slowly shifting my gaze to the couch, told me about this little reaction test you've been planning. The fake breakup, the audience, the whole thing. Claire went pale. The other two stared at her like she'd just confessed to a crime. That's not true, Ryan said quickly, but his voice cracked. What friend? I didn't answer him. I just watched the realization bloom across his face as the silence dragged on. You're lying, one of the women snapped, pointing at Claire. You said you wouldn't say anything. Ryan turned to them. Say what? I sighed. You want details? Fine. I straightened in my chair. About 2 months ago, one of you met me for coffee. She told me you were planning to convince Ryan to fake a breakup to see how I'd react. That you always do this. That it's some twisted way you measure commitment. Ryan's face drained of color. That's insane, he said weakly. Is it? I asked. Because I also know you expected me to cry, to beg, to chase you out the door so you could all feel validated. One of the women scoffed. We were just trying to help him. By making him lie to me, I shot back. It's not lying, she said. It's testing. No, I said. It's manipulation. Ryan looked at me, eyes wide. You knew about this? Yes. For how long? Long enough. And you didn't say anything? I held his gaze. I wanted to see if you'd actually go through with it. The room went dead quiet. If you'd choose honesty, I continued, or if you'd choose their approval. One of the women stood up. This is ridiculous. You're overreacting. Am I? I asked. Because from where I'm sitting, you turned my relationship into entertainment. Ryan rubbed his face. I didn't think it would go like this. But it did, I said. Because you let it. Claire finally spoke, voice shaking. I tried to stop it. I warned her. Ryan looked at her like he didn't recognize her. You warned her? He asked. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I'm sorry. I stood up. I think I've seen enough. Rebecca, wait, Ryan said, panic creeping in. Please. I turned back once. You don't get to test someone and then ask them to stay, I said quietly. That's not love. That's control. I grabbed my coat and walked out. Behind me, voices exploded. Accusations, shouting, disbelief. But I didn't slow down. Because the moment he chose the game, the breakup stopped being fake. I sat in my car for a full 10 minutes after I left. Engine off, hands on the steering wheel, breathing like I'd just run a mile I hadn't trained for. Then my phone started buzzing. Once, twice, again. Ryan. Then his friends. Then Ryan again. I turned the phone face down and didn't touch it. That night, I slept maybe 2 hours. Not because I missed him, but because my mind kept replaying the moment his eyes shifted to the couch before he said it was over. The moment he checked with them first. By morning, there were 37 notifications. Texts, voicemails, missed calls. One message stood out. It was from Claire. I'm so sorry. They're furious with me, but I don't care. You deserve to know. I replied to her. Thank you for telling me. You did the right thing. Ryan's messages were longer, messier. I didn't mean for it to go that far. They pressured me. I was scared. Please talk to me. I didn't respond. 2 days later, there was a knock on my door. I almost didn't answer. But I knew this conversation wasn't something I could avoid forever. Ryan stood there looking like he hadn't slept. Eyes red, shoulders slumped. Not the confident man I'd walked into that apartment believing I knew. Can I come in? He asked. For a few minutes, I said. We sat on opposite ends of my couch. The space between us felt deliberate, necessary. I ended things with them, he said quickly. The two who pushed this the hardest. I'm still talking to Claire. She tried to stop it. I nodded. Good. I know that doesn't fix what I did, he continued, but I need you to know I never wanted to hurt you. I looked at him then, really looked. You wanted their approval more than my trust, I said. That's still a want. He flinched. They made me doubt everything. They kept saying, what if she's only with you for now? What if you're more invested than she is? Don't you want to know for sure? So instead of talking to me, I said, you lied. Yes, he whispered, and it was wrong. Do you see that? I asked. Or do you just see it now because it blew up? He didn't answer. That was answer enough. I love you, he said finally. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I'm asking for one anyway. I leaned back. I don't trust you right now, I said. And love without trust is just anxiety dressed up as hope. How much time do you need? He asked. I don't know. Are we broken up? I stared at the wall for a moment. We're nothing, I said. We're in limbo. He nodded slowly. I'll wait. Don't, I said. Not like that. He looked up. Wait, because you need to figure out why you let people convince you to betray your own values, I said. Not because you think waiting earns you anything from me. He nodded again. I will. And stop texting me constantly, I added. If I want to talk, I'll reach out. Okay. When he left, the apartment felt hollow. Not lonely, just quiet in a way that forced reflection. Over the next week, I thought about everything. Not just Ryan, but the pattern. The way his friends spoke about relationships like puzzles to solve. The way insecurity was framed as strategy. I reached out to Claire again and asked if she'd meet me. Same cafe, same table. She looked nervous. Am I in trouble? No, I said. I just need to ask you something. She nodded. Have they done this before? Her shoulders dropped. Yes. How many times? At least 3 guys, maybe more. And what happened? She sighed. Every relationship ended. Either the guy begged and lost their respect, or he got angry and they used that as proof he was dangerous. I felt a chill. So there was never a way to win. She shook her head. That's why I warned you. I sat back, realization settling heavy in my chest. This wasn't about me failing a test. It was about refusing to play a rigged game. That conversation with Claire stayed with me longer than I expected. Because once you see a pattern, you can't unsee it. A few days after we met, my phone rang from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me not to. Hello? Hi, a man said cautiously. This is going to sound strange, but I dated one of Ryan's friends a couple of years ago. I closed my laptop and sat back. I heard what happened to you, he continued. The fake breakup thing. My stomach tightened. How? There's a group chat, he said. They coordinate stories. Who said what? How to frame the guy afterward. I felt cold all over. They're already saying you were controlling, he added. That Ryan felt trapped. I laughed once, humorless. Of course they are. I wanted to warn you, he said. Because no one warned me. We talked for almost half an hour. He told me how he'd failed their test by getting angry, how they used that reaction to paint him as unstable, how it followed him socially for years. The only way to win, he said, is not to play. After we hung up, I sat there staring at my wall. This wasn't a breakup story. It was a system. I called Claire. I have an idea, I said, but I won't do it without you. She listened quietly as I explained. You want me to reach out to the other guys? She asked. Only if you're comfortable, I said. They deserve to know they weren't the problem. There was a long pause. You're right, she said finally. They do. Over the next 2 weeks, she contacted everyone she could find. Some didn't respond. Some said they'd moved on and didn't want to reopen old wounds. But 3 agreed to meet. We gathered at a small restaurant. 5 of us total. Strangers bound by the same invisible thread. As we talked, the stories lined up too perfectly to be coincidence. The same phrases, the same tests, the same aftermath. I thought I was crazy, one of them said quietly. Like I imagined it. You didn't, Claire said. I watched them plan it. No one talked about revenge, no plotting, no public takedown. Just truth. If anyone asked, we'd tell it. Calmly, factually. And when word started to spread, something shifted. People began connecting dots. The women who once controlled the narrative suddenly went quiet. Ryan texted me during all of this. I heard what you did. Thank you for not including me. You weren't the problem, I replied. You were influenced by it. He told me he'd started therapy. I'm learning why I need approval so badly, he said when we spoke briefly on the phone. Why I don't trust my own instincts. That's good, I said, and I meant it. But growth doesn't rewind damage. 10 days after the fake breakup, I texted Ryan. We need to talk. He replied immediately. When? Tonight, your place, just us. When I arrived, he looked hopeful in a way that made my chest ache, like someone standing in the doorway of a house that might already be on fire. We sat on the same couch where he'd ended things. I've made a decision, I said. He nodded, silent, bracing. I can't be with you right now, I continued, and maybe not ever. His face fell, but he didn't interrupt. What you did broke something, I said, and I don't know if it can be fixed. I understand, he said quietly. I exhaled. I also think you're not a bad person. I think you made a terrible choice because you didn't trust yourself. He swallowed. I'm not slamming this door, I added, but I'm not leaving it open either. It's closed for now. So this is a breakup, he said. Yes. He nodded. Tears slipped down his face. I'm sorry, he said. I ruined this. I know, I replied gently, but sorry doesn't undo it. Is there anything I can do? Yes, I said. Get better friends. Stay in therapy. Learn to sit with discomfort instead of outsourcing your decisions. I will. For you, I said, not for me. When I stood to leave, he walked me to the door. Thank you, he said, for not hating me. I don't hate you, I replied. I'm just disappointed. That silence followed me home, but it wasn't empty. A month later, my life looked different. Not dramatic, just steady. I built routines that didn't involve anxiety, took up woodworking, learned how grounding it felt to make something real with my hands. Claire and I stayed in touch. She distanced herself from the group completely. The women who ran the test lost their audience. And me? I wasn't looking for love. I was looking for peace. It's been 3 months now. I'm 34, single, and finally clear on something I wish I'd learned earlier. Love doesn't test you. It trusts you.